I'm Dr. Rajani, and I'm making this video because I've had hundreds of requests on a recent study that showed that tattoos cause cancer, in particular lymphoma. So I want to set the record straight today and give you what mainstream media won't give you. Should you be worried about it? What is this study all about? What's your course of action? Another interesting point in this study was it wasn't just big tattoos, but small tattoos carried the same risk, which is interesting because that means that the more ink you get doesn't necessarily mean the higher risk there is. So this is a study that came out of Sweden, and it was an observational study, and that's key. So they had 12,000 patients in their data bank of people who had lymphoma over about a 10-year period from, say, 2007 to 2017. And they looked at this data of people, and they went back to compare it to people who had lymphoma that did not have tattoos. Of importance here, what they did find was that of the people that had lymphoma, they were at highest risk of getting it within the first year to two after getting the tattoo. One thing you need to understand is that we do know that tattoo and tattoo ink is found in lymph nodes. It's important to understand that lymphoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma in particular, is one of the most curable forms of cancer. However, they looked at more invasive forms or more resistant forms of lymphoma in this study. And those were the forms, unfortunately, that were at higher risk. The meat of the data really shows a 20% increase of risk of lymphoma. Now, a lot of people have asked me, hey, does that mean if I had tattoos, and 20% of Canada, by the way, has tattoos, but if you have a tattoo, does that mean you have a 20% risk of getting lymphoma? No. Your overall lifetime risk of getting a non-Hodgkin's type lymphoma is less than 2%. It would be a 20% increase risk of that 2% or so. So that was the alarming part of the study, and the headlines that were so bombastic from mainstream media was that there's a 20% increased risk of cancer, and people interpreted that wrongly. Now, when I look at the data, I think it's even smaller than that. So we know that the tattoo ink is found in the lymph nodes, and of course, lymphoma is a cancer of the lymph nodes, and we know that tattoos elicit an immunological response. So the connection to cancer would be a logical one to make. However, every other prior study that looked at this found no association. So in my opinion, it's a minuscule risk. Would it stop someone from getting a tattoo? Should you not get a tattoo? I personally don't have any tattoos, but if I was going to get one, this study would make me stop and think, but I would not necessarily say you shouldn't get a tattoo. Here's what you should consider and what we need to consider in the tattoo world. The type of ink that we're using, you want to know that it's safer. Interestingly, people who had tattoos more recently were at a bit higher risk, meaning if the tattoo is older, they were at lower risk. So it doesn't mean that the newer ink, if it has changed, is any better. But going forward, I think we need to look at the ink, we need to study this further, and we need to make the ink as safe as possible. Should you get a tattoo removed? Absolutely not, based on this data. Remember, this was an observational study, and observational studies do not prove causation. In fact, they're about the worst type of study to prove any type of causation. There will be more information to come. If you're getting value from this video, remember, like and subscribe. Now, comment below, do you have tattoos? Did you read the study? What do you think? And do you know friends that have had tattoos that maybe had lymphoma? I'll update you as things change. Stay tuned here. Keep your skin and body beautiful, healthy, and vibrant.